Then what's happening, people? This will be brief. So my prediction that Tank would stop Broly. I mean, it wasn't rocket science. Um, the fight went the way I said it would go, which is that Tank would box Broly and walk him into something, and it's exactly what happened. The prediction was that Tank would stop Broly in under 6 rounds, which more or less came to pass. I think that was the general consensus. He stopped him in the 6th round. And so, what was the interesting things about this fight? What was interesting about this fight? Go to ProBox TV. Antonio Tarver, Roy Jones Jr., Paulie Malignaggi called it on the button. Um, and that's pretty much how the fight went. I myself had the same opinion. I agreed with everything they said. I thought this fight was a mismatch. It turned out to be actually a pretty good chess match. Actually, Raleigh actually showed me a little bit more than I expected of him. So that's some kudos to Raleigh on that. In that Raleigh used how you fight a southpaw. Raleigh was trying to implement that. He didn't always get it, but he tried to implement it. And I think Teofimo Lopez and his father, I think why they thought he could beat Raleigh was because he implemented what is called the pyramid, what they call the pyramid, where you use a jab to keep your opponent's jab at home. You try to keep a certain distance, a certain range on your opponent, as you try to land your lead hand or your left hooks, as may be the case. Raleigh had one moment of success where he caught Tank with, I believe it was a left hook. I think it was. It wasn't even a right hand. He was trying to throw the right hand, but the right hand was falling short. The thing that really was most effective with Raleigh actually was his jab. He was jabbing to the body in the early rounds, in round one and so on. Tank was trying to measure him out, find range. Tank found his timing in round number 5. That's when he really got his timing. He was landing a lot of left hands on him. And it was just a matter of time because he had found his rhythm, he found his timing. So Tank said he was going to go in there, feel him out, see what he was about, see his power and all that kind of stuff. As I said before, I knew that Tank would be able to take Raleig's power to some degree. Raleigh did land, I think, 1 or 2 power shots on Tank. And Tank took him. He took him pretty well. But Tank was boxing Raleigh, which that's what Tank said. This is about boxing. Um, didn't get to really, I had predicted that Tank would punish Raleigh. Didn't get to really punish Raleigh, which is what I basically wanted to say, that he was breaking him down to the body, but, in round 5 particularly, he landed a lot of body shots. But he really didn't get to punish Raleigh. Um, Raleigh actually held his own in that fight. It was somewhat competitive. Up to the 4th round, it was somewhat competitive. Tank was starting to find Raleig's. He's starting to find Raleig's timing. Raleigh was trying to do what I tell you have to do with the southpaw. You want to circle to the southpaw's power hand, but you want to stay a distance away where they can't hit you. You can hit them. The difference is that Tank is a bit quicker, a bit sharper, and a lot more athletic than Rolly Romero is. So Tank was able to slip under Raleig's shots and land straight left hands. And Tank wasn't really jabbing a lot because Raleigh was doing most of the jabbing. So Tank, what he would do now was he would extend his lead hand as Raleigh is throwing his jab. So Tank would tap Raleig's lead hand, and what Tank was doing was finding Raleig's timing. So he was trying to find Raleig's timing with the jab, and then Tank would shoot the left hand. So in the 5th round, after Tank had calculated and figured out all that stuff, he started really throwing left hands and landing on Raleigh, and he just couldn't miss with Raleigh. And Raleigh didn't realize, Raleigh in the post-fight press conference said he won every round, and Tank caught him with a lucky shot. No, that was not the case. But because Tank didn't put a beating on Raleigh, he would say something like that in the post-fight conference. So anyway, Raleigh was trying to circle Tank to his power hand side, keeping a certain distance. This is a Mayweather thing that Mayweather does, and Teofimo Lopez, and they saying the pyramid is what it's really Mayweather stuff, right? It's something that's been around forever. Tito Trinidad and a lot of other guys used to box like that. But the point is, you're circling the guy to his power hand because you want to take away the angle at which he would come at you. But what Tank was doing was Tank would be circling Rolly. He would let Rolly circle that way, and then he would just he would what we call circle out and reset the whole thing, and then Tank would get to circle Rolly the way Tank wanted to circle Rolly. So Tank was resetting the game, and then by explain, Tank can do this. Canelo does not do this. That's why you have to have foot cardio. Tank was circling Rolly wherever he wanted to, so he could walk Rolly into something. You could see he was setting traps, and he would bait Rolly by throwing, either a right hook or a jab or a lead left, so that Rolly would come at him. And Rolly, because Rolly was trying to pursue Tank so much, he started pressing the attack too much. He actually was reaching, and when he reached in the 6th round, he reached in he threw the lead right hand. He reached in and he was falling in. As he was falling in, Tank caught him with a left hook. He caught him with a left hook as he was dipping out the way, and he circled out. Right? Tank's footwork is phenomenal. And so he was able to circle out on Rolly, and Rolly was knocked out. He stiffened him up, and he knocked him out cold with and Tank said, the hook that he hit him with wasn't really with much power, but of course it was the placement, it was the timing, and Rolly never saw it coming. So it's a shot that you never see that knocks you out. So Tank really wanted to keep probably the fight a little longer because Tank was having a ball. He was talking to people in the crowd. Because he knew he had Rolly in the bag. I think by round 4, so round 3, Tank realized that Rolly wasn't that much of a threat, that he could handle that by boxing him on the outside. So he was on the outside, he'd come in the inside, land his shots, and spin back out to the outside. So he realized he could box him from a distance. And then once he knew that, he was having a ball, having fun in there. He was talking to the crowd, he was talking to different people, he even talked to Rolly. At the end of round 1, he was like, "You didn't knock me out, Ninja. You know what I mean?" So he was having fun with Rolly Romero. So this fight was actually a little bit more chess-like than I expected, which is good. Rolly, gathered some information, and he grew as a fighter, I would say, in terms of fighting southpaws at least. He grew as a fighter. So, he did better than I expected. He did better than I expected, and that's good for him. He should continue on the growth pathway. I don't think this is going to completely destroy him actually as a fighter, because remember, Marinez did a number on him. Tank boxed him, no doubt about it. Was trying to break him down to the body. Found his timing, found his rhythm. By round 5, Tank was doing his thing, and then in round 6 he was doing his thing again, tagging up Rolly Romero, and that's why Romero, he got very anxious to close the distance, and that's why he, as with anything, you're running into, you don't realize the guy's setting traps on you, traps for you on the back foot, and this is the beauty of fighting off the back foot, and this is what boxing's all about. Boxing's all about that, fighting off the back foot, and that's how you get guys out of there. And beautifully, what I like about it is Tank caught him moving back as he's stepping in, almost like a Ricky Hatton kind of situation, but you flip it because it's orthodox to southpaw this time, not orthodox to orthodox. And he caught him stepping back and knocked him out, kind of like reminiscent of Sugar Ray Robinson and Floyd Mayweather knocking out guys, So Tank's a very special fighter. I don't know what happened to his hand in the fight. I saw when he yelled out for his arm or something. His hand, he probably hurt his hand on Rolly's head or something. But Tank needs to be careful and protect his hands, because Floyd used to be a power puncher himself, and his hands, got messed up. So Tank need to check that out, make sure his hands are in order, or his shoulders. You can hurt your shoulders or your hands, and such gifted boxers tend to get those kinds of injuries, so he should really look out for that. Well, anyways, my prediction, I was 100% correct. We had a number of knockouts tonight. We had Arislandi Lara knock out Gary O'Sullivan within 8. We also had my boy Jaleel Hackett. He stopped his opponent in 2 rounds. So shout out to them and congratulations to them on that. Congratulations to Tank on the victory. The fight wasn't that much of a mismatch. It's actually kind of even, at least going through 4. I thought Rolly won. I believe he won 1 or 2 of the rounds. I don't have him winning more than 2 rounds. I think Tank won the other 3 and then stopped him in the 6. But it was a lot more competitive than I thought it would be, and kudos to Rolly on that. And his team. They did their homework. It looked more like a boxing match. Raleigh was still several steps behind Tank, but what I like about it is it was a good step up fight for him. Now, as to what his comments were post fight, I think he needs to reevaluate that. He needs to go back and he and his coach and be realistic about what really happened. I just broke it down, and Raleigh can go ahead and have a look at what I just said if he wants to. I don't know. I'm not qualified to really, but I'm just telling what I saw. My pair of eyes watching the fight. That's about it, really. Like I said before, or maybe I didn't. I may have written that before in a group. I believe that. No, I said this before. I said Tank, Devin, and Ryan Garcia are the top lightweights in the division. And Ryan Garcia right now, he doesn't have any accolades to back him up as a top lightweight. Tank's been a three-time super featherweight champion. Okay, Tank's been a 3-time super featherweight champion. So Tank's been a world champion. Devin Haney is a world champion right now. I think he's going to be the next undisputed lightweight world champion. So that just shows their pedigree, okay? And Ryan Garcia, he's yet to make a mark in the division and do something. But I think before he leaves the division, he'll make a mark. Now, I think Devin Haney is going to fight maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 more fights. Maybe one with Tank, maybe not. Maybe one with Shakur, maybe not. But I do believe that Devin Haney's going to leave the division soon. I think Ryan will take over if Tank's not there. If Tank is there, Ryan may end up fighting Tank. But either way, those guys are going to go on to have careers where they're going to be the last man standing. Those guys, no matter what division they're in, you got to watch out for those guys. That's how I look at them. They're very special fighters. And Shakur Stevens is another very special fighter. And they're going to be the last man standing when all is said and done. Their pedigree and their stature is such that that's what's going to happen. Okay? Tank is a boxer puncher. Devin Haney's a boxer. And Ryan Garcia, so far, seems to be a boxer puncher. We don't know if he's really that. As you move up in levels and you get to the top echelon fighters, we will realize if they are or aren't of the pedigree of a Tank or a Devin Haney or Ryan Garcia. But those guys, you see those 3 guys I just mentioned, Teofimo Lopez was kind of like one of those guys. Teo saying at sometime in the future he will face Tank, and he'll see what happens with that. But you see, guys like Tank is not like Manny Pacquiao or typical southpaws. Now, even though what I told you guys about in fighting a southpaw works, it doesn't work with everybody because certain guys have certain special effects. And remember, it's all about distance. It's all about distance control. In this case, Tank fought on the outside, and he would close the distance by slipping punches. He would slip and counter, right? Slip, slide, counter, right? So, and Tank's very, very explosive, very quick. And as you can see, the difference between Tank and Canelo is Tank can set traps on the back foot. So he can fight you off the back foot. It reminds me of what happened with Jermell Charlo versus Brian Castano. It's somewhat of a similar thing, except Tank is southpaw. Again, you're fighting a guy off the back foot. If you don't understand range, you don't understand distance very well, you will not be able to do what Tank... But Tank's a specially gifted guy anyway. He's more explosive. He's quicker than Jermell Charlo. Um, he's much more precise. He's much more accurate. He's much more compact, right? So there's a lot of things going for Tank. Even though he doesn't have the reach and height advantage like in this fight, he didn't have the reach advantage, height advantage, or size advantage. But he worked with what he had, and he boxed that. I mean, he boxed the shit out of Rolly Romero, and so that he showed his superiority again. Rolly Romero is stepping up in levels to try to face a Tank Davis. So the fact that he was even competitive for 2-3 rounds is a huge plus to him. He's grown a lot as a fighter because that's a huge jump up. He jumped up tremendous levels to face one of the best fighters in the world. Pound for pound, top 10 fighter in the world. That's what he did. So he took a lot of balls, a lot of guts to do it. And it shows that he wasn't overwhelmed by the stage at which he was at. So that's all good things for him. He has a lot more growth and a lot more listening and a lot more work to do on his boxing skills. He even promoted the crap out of the fight. So kudos to Rolly Romero on making what would have been a mismatch fight and a dismissive fight by most people. He made this fight into something where everybody was interested in watching it, even if they knew that Tank was the overwhelming favorite. He made it. He even made people believe that he would be competitive in the fight. And truthfully, for a certain period of time in the fight, at least in the first 2 rounds or so, he was somewhat competitive. He was getting his jab in on Tank's body a little bit, and he was doing a couple good things. And he made Tank respect his power, and he wasn't reckless in how he was using his power, throwing his power. So he had a certain strategy to what he was doing and a game plan. So I gotta give Rolly Romero a lot of credit for taking on this tremendous challenge, and it will do him well in the future because he was going to work his ass off. Just one thing though, he needs to keep, as I was listening to a fan of Tank and she was saying stay humble. Stay humble meaning don't get too big-headed. Teofimo Lopez, he got big-headed, and that cost him the fight with Kambosos because Teofimo Lopez had all the tools to beat a George Kambosos. And he's probably going to kick himself for being intimidated with George Kambosos, and also for allowing that fight to go away from him, because he did drop George Kambosos later on in the fight. George was finishing all the flurries though. The thing with Bivol, why Bivol beat Canelo, wasn't because Bivol was landing these tremendous amounts of shots on Canelo, and people were saying Bivol had other gears and all. No. Let me tell you why Bivol beat Canelo. One, Canelo couldn't really land on him, so his defense was tight. And the second thing was Bivol started and ended any trade. So if Canelo counterpunched Bivol, whether he landed or not, Bivol would come back with an answer, whether he landed or not. And so Bivol made everybody believe he was in control of that fight and he could do whatever he wanted in that fight. And people felt that Bivol could go through some other gears and get Canelo out of there. But the truth be told, Bivol wasn't landing that much on Canelo. He was getting like 1 shot in out of 3 or 4 shots. He wasn't landing clean. When he did catch Canelo with a shot, it looked really great because Canelo would ride the shot, and so it would make it more exaggerated. And since the fight was such one where nobody was really getting hit with anything, because if you look at the end of the fight, besides Canelo's forehead here, which had a little red spot because of the jabs that he was getting hit with, there was nothing really. Canelo's face wasn't damaged particularly badly, and neither was Bivol's. Bivol's arm had a little mark where Canelo was, raking him with the right hand, putting those knuckles in there. But to be honest with you, neither guys really took a lot of punishment. And the reason that was so with Bivol fight was because both guys have incredible defense. And I try to explain to people, because a lot of people say, well, Bivol could have stopped Canelo. No, that shit was never going to happen. It's never going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Tariq H says, Tank needs to fight Lomachenko or twofold if Lopez still fights at 135 so he can get the winner of Devin versus Kambosos fight. Well, first and foremost, I want to say this, because all y'all want to talk about who Tank's supposed to fight next. The first thing y'all need to do is respect this dude. Okay? Because some of y'all out here was saying how Rolly got a chance against Tank. That's bullshit. Okay? Not every boxer has a chance against another boxer. It's boxing. But what I mean is he didn't have no legitimate fucking chance. Get the fuck out of here. And y'all were saying that Tank Sorry about the F-bombs, but y'all was saying that Tank was a fighter who he ain't faced nobody. Well, if he ain't faced nobody, Raleigh was saying that, he would dominate Tank. Listen, man. Listen, you got to know elite fighters from non-elite fighters. There are 3 elite fighters in that division. Y'all forget the smoke and mirrors, okay? There are 3 elite fighters in that division. All right? Smash the like button, by the way. Yeah, there are 3 elite fighters in that division, okay? It's Tank, there's Ryan Garcia, and there's Devin Haney. All right? All the other fighters, I don't care if you're talking about Lomachenko, I don't care if you're talking about Jojo Diaz, all them other guys are not on those guys' level. Tank told you there's levels to boxing. All right? Them other guys not on their level. And they're going to show you this. At 130, the elite boxer in 130, the best boxer in 130 is Shakur Stevenson. The best boxers at 135, it starts like this. I know he don't got no real title at 135. I know that. He has a secondary title. But it's still Tank number 1, Devin number 2, Ryan number 3. Remember what I said, okay? And I explained to you why they are what they are. And they're going to be hard to beat. All right? Don't let Ryan's talking a lot of shit, but Ryan can box his ass off. I can tell you all that for a fact. He's very, very good at what he does. All right, so those are the 3 guys. Now, I don't really know what Ryan's real power is. Ryan got a lot of speed. He has decent defense. Don't get it twisted. Luke Campbell knocked him down, but he has good defense. Okay? Ugh. Tariq H says, I definitely wasn't saying that Tank wasn't good. Okay, I got you. Tariq H says, I have Ryan over Lomachenko. Oh, no, you're saying you have Ryan over Lomachenko. No, what are you saying? You're saying I have Ryan over Lomachenko? Yes, of course I have Ryan over Lomachenko. Skill-wise, ability-wise, fuck yeah. Ryan and Tank stop Lomachenko. They stop him. He gets knocked out. Loma's a great fighter. Okay? But you got to understand there are different generations of fighters. All right? And every successive generation of fighter there's a reason why one generation gets beat off by another generation. Okay? So, what really makes sense in boxing, the reality of boxing is that if a Bud Crawford or a Jerome Ennis was to fight a Floyd Mayweather, prime or no prime, they'd beat his ass. That's just the reality of the situation. As remarkable as Floyd is, these guys been watching him. And they've been training and they've been taking and inculcating certain attributes. Smash the like button, people. Taking in attributes. And it's only natural that the next generation would be better than the generation before. It doesn't always happen that way. But for the most part, it does. Once you have these special fighters that come out the womb with the God gifting already. And then the skills and abilities that are shaped by the great boxers that they watch. You have to have a sense of history as well. Don't get it twisted. You're not just watching. But I mean, just to see the current boxers in boxing today, the remarkable ones doing what they're doing, it inspires the younger boxers. Yeah, you're going to go watch boxers from way back. You want to have a sense of history, and you want to also learn more technique, skills, mindset, and abilities, all that stuff. But at the same time, there ain't nothing like going to an actual fight and seeing it demonstrated in front of your face by the best of your particular division or the divisions you aspire to be or whatever, right? And they're just more and more remarkable boxers. And I'm not going to lie to you. Lomachenko was a remarkable boxer for a minute and great amateur. You know, Guillermo Rigondeaux, great boxer for a minute. great amateur, but like all things, people get inspired by that and they take it to the next level. And you look at, especially these youngsters today, how remarkably they have ability to learn faster than I used to do in my time. You know, their abilities to take in things and process things is, to me, it's a lot much more developed than even my generation, and I'm very impressed by that. But at the same time, what I'm saying is, you got these prodigies coming out now. So I would say that Shakur Stevenson, Tank, and they're much more actually. They're just not as developed, and they don't get the exposure, and some of them just never make it out of their environments. There's a lot. There's a lot more. Tank and Devin and Ryan, and these are just small percentages of uh, that plethora of youth, so talented, skilled, and gifted, that just managed to survive and make it out of their situation and be able to make it into the big game, the big times. And these guys you heard about from the amateurs, and some great names from the amateurs never made it out because they got shot or killed or died of some disease or some injury happened to them. You know how it goes with this game. So you had, Tank would tell you about the unbelievable fighter in his gym who was stabbed to death. You know what I'm saying? And this is just a fact of life. Sometimes the streets take some of the most gifted ones. So what I'm trying to say to you guys is, I'm not to say that, Tank, Devin, and Rolly at the lightweight division, not Rolly, sorry, Ryan at the lightweight division um, are not exclusively the best fighters in all of boxing or all history. But I'm just saying, fighters on seeing, on seeing and getting that experience and that pedigree and being under so many different trainers and going to so many different gyms and just getting a lot of experience and learning so much, these fighters and all of these people, they grow exponentially, and so they have more. In sparring, Bill Haney said that Devin, he said Floyd sat down with him and said after sparring Devin, he said, "Oh, that young boy give this old man some work." In other words, it's the same thing Floyd did to Purnell. You see what I'm saying? And the point is, Devin is like the next generation of fighter. And this is what I want you guys to understand about boxing. The conventional wisdom on boxing is that it don't evolve, and fighters are getting worse, and it plateaued somewhere and it's just dipping now. That's bullshit. Anybody selling you that bullshit, tell them go fuck. I was gonna cuss. But tell them to just leave, please, and stop corrupting the atmosphere with the negativity. Because truth be told, boxing has come a long way from where it came from. And there'll be all these guys who are nostalgic for the past, or historians will tell you that it hasn't come a long way. Just look at them in their face and let them know you're talking a bunch of rubbish. Okay, tell them they're talking nonsense. All right, because at the end of the day, the sport today, what it is right now, is way more advanced than what it used to be. It's not as big as it used to be, because what it used to be was boxing was like soccer to the world. Everybody used to box, and it was the major sport back in the Depression age. Now it's not as major a sport. There are many other sports to pick from, especially in different countries, and so it's not the major sport, right? And then people didn't like that it's a blood sport and violent, and so some people move away from it, and we have people who advocate against it and all kinds of nonsense like that, right? But it's still around after 100 and something years, which should say something. So the sport's beautiful, and amateur programs particularly are wonderful because it creates discipline and so on. So all I'm saying is, boxing is doing better and better. All right, and guys like Tank, Jake Paul, Tyson Fury, these guys do a lot for it because They literally reach into the casual fans. They literally reach into the pop culture, and they're able to reach at people that boxing would not. If we just had purists, they would drain the fucking life out of the sport. Sorry about the F bomb. They would drain the life out of the sport because you know they feel it must be this way, and they're very rigid about what it should be. But you have to open your mind and think outside the box. And in a way, if those purists were really thinking, if they were using their nuggets right, they would realize that's how boxing always actually was. Let me explain. Tank versus Rolly Romero is a mismatch fight because of Tank's experience. However, that doesn't mean because it's a mismatch that it wouldn't be entertaining. Yeah? Back in the day, Mike Tyson was the most entertaining fighter in the 90s. What people forget is who he faced. Who did Mike Tyson face? If you ask somebody to name 10 people that Mike Tyson faced, they can't do it. Why? Because people did not come to see Mike Tyson's opponents. They came to see Mike Tyson knock out a dude. Okay? That's what they came to see. Because the opponents were not as important. They didn't care that it was a mismatch. As far as they're concerned, Mike Tyson is a monster. So it didn't matter if it was actually a tailor-made opponent to get knocked out by Mike Tyson. Tank is that kind of guy. He's got the Tyson effect. People don't care who Tank's facing. They just want to see Tank do what Tank do. Knock guys out. He has a tremendous base. And so the Barclays was sold out. And we'll see what he did in pay-per-views. So what I'm trying to explain to you guys is, whether it's Mike Tyson of the 90s, whether it is Jack Dempsey of the 1900s, nobody cares who your opponent was if you're delivering what they want, knockouts. So Mayweather Promotions was able to see that, and they did a hell of a job with with Tank. All right, they took Tank Davis from a underground black mythos, great mythos legend, because all the rap stars and all these guys, they know about Tank. Tank is known in the black urban community, and they took that and they harnessed that power, because Tank is linked to the black urban community, which is linked to rap, which is linked to hip hop, which is linked to black pop culture, which is linked to, and they blew Tank up into a bigger pop culture. So they harnessed the black pop culture that Tank comes from Baltimore, and they was able to take that and blow it up. Now Tank is getting bigger and bigger as a star, and he's crossing over into major markets where people who don't even know shit about boxing, who don't care about boxing, he's getting their attention. He's making that buzz. And as Leonard Ellerbe said, Tank's going to probably become the face of boxing very soon. And it wasn't, you see, what people don't understand is, and Leonard Ellerbe and Mayweather Promotions, they crunch numbers. They deal with numbers, and they deal with opponents that will bring certain numbers. And they understood that Tank versus Rolly had to happen because, as Leonard Ellerbe was explaining to Blue Blood Sports TV, when you look at this opponent and you look at the numbers, and they're looking at these numbers, they're crunching numbers. Remember, numbers don't lie. They saw what kind of gate different fighters are creating, what kind of buzz behind them. They look at the ratings on television when these guys fight. They look at pay-per-view, if there's pay-per-view for these guys. And that's how they be able to match up Tank with opponent. When you look at Floyd Mayweather fought Logan Paul because Mayweather Promotions crunched the numbers. They looked at the numbers and they're looking at this opponent and this opponent and this opponent. And then when they find this opponent, which the numbers really are big, Floyd would come together and deal with that guy, and then they do the promotion for it. So you have to understand that in boxing, if you want the biggest events possible, you have to be scientific about it. You have to be able to crunch the numbers for it. And they did an exceptionally great job with Tank. Okay? Tank did not necessarily fight, the best guy in the division. But he definitely faced the best guy for his bank account and blew his name up. They wanted to have him as a crossover legend, and he is that now. And if Tank stays with Mayweather Promotions, that's what they will do. They will make him as big a star as they possibly can. They're going to try and boost his star power first. And if you look at Jake Paul, for example, Jake Paul's star power is pretty big already, and he already has a following. And he's creating a buzz in boxing without having faced one legitimate boxer. He has not faced a legitimate boxer in his entire career. All right? And the point behind it is not that Jake Paul won't face a legitimate boxer because he wants to become world champion. So he's obviously going to have to step up and face a legitimate boxer. But the point behind it is that he's building on the fact that he's getting the opponents that would give him the most revenue, and he's also building on the fact that he wants a most spectacular outcome, because the fans love to see knockouts. Okay, bottom line, with boxing, fans want to see knockouts. Now, the other thing that has to happen in boxing, where we bring back boxing to what it used to be, is we need to have a commentary team that isn't like, I almost want to cuss again, but I'm not going to curse. We don't want people like Larry Merchant in boxing. We don't want people like that. Because those people tear down the sport and they tear down icons. We need people who are not tearing down icons and are excited for boxing. In UFC, when you listen to the commentators for UFC, their voices are outlandish, they're loud, and they're excited about UFC. You want somebody who's excited about the sport of boxing, passionate about it, but not stupid. Like, they know what's going on in that ring. And there's nothing better than the fighters themselves to commit for fights, which is why I recommend you guys go watch ProBox TV on YouTube. Subscribe to ProBox TV and check them out, because that's a good channel, and that's the only boxing channel. Get ProBox TV app as well. That is the only channel that goes day and night. It's going to be a boxing channel, and it'll give you everything that has to do with boxing. So check out ProBox TV. I promote that highly. Roy Jones Jr., Antonio Tarver, Juan Manuel Marquez, and Roy Jones Jr., those are the guys who kind of like the foundation members of ProBox TV. Okay? And it's on YouTube, so you can go check it out right now. But with respect to boxing, y'all have to understand that boxing is a sport where if you love boxing and you love this and that and the other, if you're a knowledgeable fan, you will know what a fight is. You'll know when a fight is a mismatch, right? Tank versus Rolly was a mismatch. Okay, Rolly was stepping up some tremendous amounts of levels to be able to face one of the best boxers right now in boxing. So it was a mismatch. But Rolly did very well for that mismatch. Okay? And so you have to give him his props for that. And it was very entertaining, and it actually was very tactical, which I thought was very impressive. So, I mean, I gotta give both of them Rolly the props on the fight. With respect to it being a mismatch, it is what it is. But was it exciting? Did it end in a KO? Would a casual fan love this fight? Hell yes, they would. And that's the point. So what you guys have to understand is you can't just be looking at boxing from a purist perspective. You have to be able to watch it also from an entertainment perspective, with respect to casual fans, with respect to people who don't know anything about boxing, with respect to the young kids and the youth that be watching these channels and watching boxing and actually boxing. My nephew, he boxes. He was inspired by watching my videos on YouTube, and he boxes now. He's in the gym. He does his thing, and he's not doing it necessarily primarily for to enter into competition, but he's doing it at all around development as a person. His mother's very progressive, his father's very progressive, and and the point behind it is, what I'm trying to tell you guys is, you would never know who's got eyes on you or is listening to you, and so you have to be very careful about, how you represent the sport, because you as a fan are supposed to be the lifeblood of the sport. You as a fan are supposed to be driving the sport. So if you're very pessimistic about it, ain't nobody gonna be interested in something where you pessimistic about it and only saying a bunch of negative things about it. Ain't nobody want to be in that. Okay? So you have to, and that's why this is my role in here, to spank to beat some of you fans into shape, to get you out of your moronic, narcissistic attitude, and to get you to be positive people. And so I go in hard on the fans. I don't have a problem going in, because I'm a fan myself. Even though I do box myself, I'm a fan as well. And I'm trying to say, some of you fans, man, why are you even in the sport? If all you say about the sport is something negative, then get the hell out of the sport, man, and let positive people take over the sport. I hope Castle fans replace you. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, it's about enjoying. It's supposed to be a sport which you enjoy. It's supposed to be something you like. It's supposed to be something you love. And if you don't love it, then get the hell out of it. Get the hell out of it. Do something you love. You know what I'm saying? You can't say you love boxing and you trash every single top fighter in the business. That makes no sense. You can be critical of top fighters. But at the end of the day, you need to acknowledge what makes them top fighters. You need to acknowledge what makes them great. You need to acknowledge that you got greats in your era. Y'all afraid to say this fighter is great or that fighter is great. Why? That makes no sense. If they're great, they're great. Canelo's great. Y'all afraid to say that. Oh, I don't just say great. Man, he in your era. He the greatest of your era. All right? If you want to put Tyson Fury, you want to put whoever you want to put at the top, Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence, whoever you want to put at the top, no problem. But you can't say that Canelo's not great. You get what I'm saying? You have to acknowledge that. You can criticize him for not facing this fighter or not facing that fighter. Sure. Of course you can. That's a fair criticism. But to say that the man is not great, oh, he never was a great fighter, oh, he never was pound for pound number one, oh, he never was the face of boxing, it's to be delusional and to be stupid. And I'm tired of seeing stupid fans make stupid statements and dumb down the sport and misrepresent the sport, especially the icons of the sport. All right? And whether you like it or not, Canelo's an icon of the sport, Triple G's an icon of the sport, Tyson Fury's an icon of the sport, and some of them younger guys like Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, Jermell Charlo, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, Vasily Lomachenko, Guillermo Rigon now, Arislan Delar. Got a lot of icons of the sport who are active in the sport right now. And y'all better acknowledge those people, and y'all better give them the credit they deserve. Because that when you do that, you could then criticize them as much as you want. You can criticize them as much as you want. But you must give them the credit they deserve, and you must look at your icons, and you must speak positively about them, because those are the guys that hold up the sport. You can't say you love boxing, but you disrespecting the guys that represent boxing. How can you love boxing? Oh, I got passion for boxing. I got so much passion for boxing. You got passion for boxing and you trashing it? How can you have passion for something you trashing? You can't say nothing positive about it. You like some angry ex or some angry spouse that mad about the other person. You can't say nothing good about it? Come on, man. Man, we got so many great fights this year. So many great fights this year. And we We're yet to get even more great fights this year. Just because I say a fight is a mismatch, don't mean that it won't be interesting. Don't mean that it won't be exciting. Don't mean that it won't be something that fans wouldn't want to pay to see. That's the point. And that's where a lot of you guys go off onto the deep end. And even I'm guilty of it sometimes as a purist. I'm like, man, I ain't even paying to see that fight because that's a mismatch. Yeah, but it could be an exciting mismatch. It could be an exciting fight. And we miss that all the time as fans because we're so fucking in our heads. You know what I'm saying? Sorry about the F-bomb. We so full of ourselves that we can't see past our own ego as fans. Oh, that's beneath me. Oh, that's beneath me. That fight's beneath me. I need a competitive fight. Yeah, but then the fight that's a mismatch is somewhat competitive. It still ends in a KO. The guy who wins still wins, but the other guy shows us something. You know, that's what's boxing. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that I'm going to try to be more positive about boxing all the time. You know, you guys know I'm kind of positive about it. But I got to share out, sometimes I have to share out some spankings to some fans. Because we're going with fans. I mean, fans are what they are. They're fans. Is you get fans that be hating on some of the great fighters of our era. All right? They be hating on them. All they want to see them do is lose. Right? They don't even want to acknowledge them and respect them. And I just want to let them know, in boxing, whether you like who you like or you don't like who you like, the one thing you need to do is keep it 100. You need to keep it honest. If a fighter win a fight, say that fighter won a fight. If a fighter beat another fighter and you was wrong, you must have the cojones and you must have the testicular fortitude to get up in here and say, I was wrong. What you need, do that all the time. What you need, come on here, and he was wrong about a fighter, he gonna tell you he was wrong about a fighter. I was wrong about Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano. And I ain't got no problem saying that. I was wrong about Tyson Fury versus Vladimir Klitschko. I was wrong about Anthony Yarde versus Sergey Kovalev. I don't have a problem saying I'm wrong about certain things. I always give you my reasons why I say this is what's going to go down. Okay? And the point behind it is that it's not about fucking ego, man. You can't be so full of yourself that you can't say you're wrong. And you should also not just go in on fighters and disrespect them, especially when they do things you will never do or you don't have the cojones to do. You know, I listen to, I'm going to go a little bit, because it's 48 minutes in. That's good. We're going to another thing, because I keep on, y'all going to hear what you need, say these things over and over again, and y'all going, he going to hammer it home, because I think the love for the sport goes above the stupidity of fans at times. And I know where this is coming from. All right? I know where the narcissistic nature came from. And I'm going to work diligently to undo that. Me and whoever else is in the business, we're going to work diligently to undo this bullshit. All right? So, the narcissism and the negativity for boxing, that was it always around? I guess it was around to some degree, but not the way how it is today. And we working to undo that, because boxing's a great sport. It's a terrific sport, and it really is a sport that allows for more positivity than negativity. I mean, if you're going up against somebody and you're going to fight somebody, of course you're going to put on your game face, and sometimes you hurl words, sometimes you don't, right? But at the end of the day, once the fight is over, you're not going to keep on disrespecting somebody. Well, sometimes a sore loser will do that, but we understand. But as fans, we don't do that. We settle it, and we say, hey, man, they settle it in the ring like men. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? If the result is not definitive, run it back, right? That's the beauty of boxing. So ultimately, in the end, the beauty of boxing is that it can elevate a lot of people and make you inspired to do more and more and more for yourself in your life. That's what I love about boxing. So if you're not a better person for boxing, if you find yourself saying that boxing is going downhill and it's crap and stuff, then it's not doing nothing for you. Then just leave it. Leave it alone. Step away from it. Don't be involved in it. Don't teach nobody nothing about it. Don't influence the next generation, because you're just a problem. You make a problem for the sport because you're not representing it well. You're only saying negative things about it. So why, if you say you so love something, why can't you say something good about it? Right? And the sport of boxing is represented by the faces of boxing. So if you don't even feel that the faces of boxing represent boxing, why the hell would you even talk about it? Don't talk about it. Go somewhere else. What you could do with your time, if you think that the present set of people in boxing are not representing it well, why don't you contribute to the sport by teaching the next generation the right way then? Teach them how the sport of boxing should be. Influence them. Shape them. Inspire them for what you think boxing should be. Don't waste your time speaking negatively about the sport when the sport is trying to get itself going. Especially the supposedly learned boxing fans and historians in the sport of boxing. Right? So that's why this is what I have to say about Tank versus Rolly. You know me, I have a lot to say about these things because I'm very passionate about fans being happy or finding joy or finding positivity in each and everything. And that's why I come around and I try to do my videos and what you need and all of that stuff, because to me it's all about positivity. If you feel inspired, if you feel like running a couple of miles after seeing a boxing match, or you feel like throwing a couple punches after having a boxing, that means you feel inspired. That means you feel pumped. That means you feel great about the fight. If you have an analytical mind, you could see what was happening in the fight, how it was progressing. You could see, you see like, oh man, he got him. He got him now. He got him now. A switch in your mind switch on, and you was like, he got him in the 5th round right there. He got him. Not by throwing punches, but you could see that the guy, he's got the rhythm, or he's got the timing down on the other guy, and you could see him now as he's moving to the rhythm of the other guy, and he's got his timing down. You know when it happens, right? You see when the switch turns on. This is the beauty of boxing. As a fan, I'm not talking about somebody who actually does it, but as a fan, to be able to detect that, to see that. I've been in some groups, I've been putting out some pretty, I think, fun stuff, and seeing the interaction with people in the groups, and in an all-around kind of positive way, and see people really, respond to it, and getting interested in it, and starting as a fan to expand their minds, and just get yourself involved in the sport of boxing. And I'll tell you something. The beauty of these sports, besides us debating who's better than who and all that bullshit, is to get you to be more involved in just having fun with it. Having fun with it. Boxing is something to have fun with. I know that sounds crazy because it's a brutal sport and you'd be beating up people, but just like Tank tonight. Tank was having fun with the sport. He was doing some of the things, that some of the former boxers back in the day used to do, talking with the fans, talking with the audience, having a rapport with the crowd, having this fun. Have fun in there. Because guess what? Boxing, after you train your ass off, is to have some fun in the ring. Have a little fun in the ring. Once you got the issue down packed, you figured it out, you have fun. And the fans, we supposed to have fun too. We supposed to have fun going to a boxing fight. You know what I'm saying? If you all tense and everything, it's going to be what it's going to be. Yeah, you put money on a guy, or you bet money on a guy, but it's gonna be what it's gonna be, right? It's gonna be what it's gonna be. And here's the fun part about it. The fun part about it is you put your money where your mouth was, and you back whoever you were backing, and whether it works out or it doesn't work out, here's the fun part about it. You've been entertained. See, by putting something on the line, you don't have control over what really happens, but you calculated, you worked out the situation, you put something on the line. It made it more fun because now there's stakes involved. And you're watching to see if what you predicted is right. And you didn't just predict. You put money on the line. You said it better be right because I put money on the line, right? So that's the point behind it. You know, shout out to Teofimo Lopez. He put his money on Rolly Romero. They know about the pyramid and are working out that formula, and he felt Rolly could pull it off. Didn't work out quite like he expected. But I'm going to say this. I respect a guy who put money on the line for a guy that he backed. Because what he's saying is, I'm not just willing to back this dude with no stakes involved. If he gets hurt, I get hurt. If he does well, I do well. That's what the betting is. Now, some of y'all is not betting people, but I'm just saying. So, at the end of the day, my point is that that's the fun of boxing. And we are fans. We're supposed to have fun with this sport. It's just fun. I mean, we as fans, we're not getting punched. Right? We're not the ones having to go into training camps and do training. We're not the ones that have to stay in shape and stay ready all the time, right? We're just fans. But it's nice for us to have the appreciation to understand and respect that this is the lifestyle that boxers have. And to understand that boxing is probably one of the harder sports to do for a livelihood. So when I hear people say, you know, this box is a bum or that box is a bum, and they're very dismissive, I don't like that, because you gotta understand, you can't do that shit. You can go, you know, with maybe 2, 3, 4 fights a year. You make like take home, maybe you make $10,000 a year, maybe that, you know, on a regular. And you probably winning some, losing some. Maybe you break even. So you like 20 fights, 10 wins, 10 losses. You know what I'm saying? And you look at those people and you say, oh, that's a bum, or that's just... No, motherfucker, that's the average boxer. The average boxer, you know, a lot of people go into boxing with dreams and visions, but they end up just kind of like breaking even. The average boxer break even, if so much. Right? Depending on who you're facing and everything. Far less even get to face some of those top guys. Right? So when we talk about Rolly Romero, he's exceptional. He's exceptional. All right? Now, he ain't on Tank's level. He's not on Tank's level. But he is exceptional. And what's incredible about him is he started super late. Okay? So what I'm trying to say to people is that, yeah, this fight was a mismatch. Was it entertaining? It was absolutely entertaining. It was a lot more of a chess match than I expected it to be, which is very good. And that for all those people out there who've been just kind of disrespecting this fight and other mismatch fights in boxing, I want to just say to them, do understand, you're not the only fan in boxing. There are other fans that these fights actually appeal to when promoted correctly. So don't go just disrespecting a fight without looking at full appeal for that fight. Okay? And what made this fight have global appeal? Rolly Romero's mouth and Tank's knockouts. Okay, people been following Tank for a long time, hence his name Tank. And Rolly Romero, he got a good mouth. So that those two put together sold that fight and sold it out quickly. People was very convinced by Rolly Romero's mouth. The problem with Rolly Romero is he don't have that work, that body of work to back him up. You see? So what I try to explain to people, and which is why I knew this fight was a mismatch, what I try to explain to people is a guy can talk, but if his experience, or he doesn't have those given steps to be able to back up his speech, he's not really as confident as he's making you think he is. Because to be confident in something, you have to be able to back it up. And to be able to back up something like that, you have to actually be able to, you'd have had to put in the work. And I knew Rolly Romero didn't put in that work. As much as they put in a lot of work, they didn't have that work to be on that level. And that's why they talk about levels in boxing. You understand what I'm saying? Anyways, man, it's been an hour talking about Tank versus Rolly. And we covered a lot of other things besides just Tank versus Rolly. But I felt I needed to speak about that because a lot of times I see people very dismissive of certain fighters. You know, Pitbull Cruz. Everybody was hearing about Pitbull Cruz. At first, when I first heard about Pitbull Cruz, I was like, who the hell is that? That's a singer? You know what I mean? And then I found out who Pitbull Cruz was. And Pitbull Cruz is no joke. He's no joke. He really is. He really is the goods. And kudos to, you know, Pitbull Cruz on his performance against Tank. You know, Tank didn't sleep him. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying to you people is that we must be able to understand what makes boxing what it is. It's like the Mike Tyson phenomenon, right? Mike Tyson is not the greatest heavyweight of all time, but he is one of the most recognized names in all of boxing. Did he face a lot of top caliber opponents? Yes, he did, but he also faced you know, a lot of guys custom built to make him look spectacular. Right? He did. So what I'm saying is, that's how boxing always has been, though. Okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to smash the like button. I see people coming through and leaving, coming through and leaving, and that's good. With respect to Tank versus Lomachenko, how would that fight go? It would end in a knockout. Lomachenko would get knocked out. How would Ryan versus Lomachenko go? Lomachenko would get locked out. How would Devin Haney versus Lomachenko go? Lomachenko would get out of box. All right, that's how that would go. And I'm looking forward to Devin Haney versus George Kambosos. I already gave the prediction for that fight long before because I know what kind of fighter Devin Haney is. Devin Haney has been trained by multiple trainers, of which Yoel Judah is one of them. So Yoel Judah is basically handling Devin Haney over in Australia. Devin Haney, I saw him in an interview in Australia, and he looks terrific. He looks in terrific shape, everything. So I think he's good to go. People are saying, you know, he'll miss his father in the corner. Not really. His father had him under so many different trainers for a reason. His father was the head coach, but that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, John. He was recently with Davidson, right? And so he's been with several different coaches, learning under different coaches and incorporating different things from them into his style. So really, Devin Haney don't really need his father like that, like people think he does. He's been prepared by his father from a very young age. That's why he's been with under many different trainers, not just because they're the senior guys, and his father, of course, needing extra experience and learning from them, but also because, you know, Mickey Bay is another trainer. I don't know if Mickey Bay is going across there. I think Mickey Bay was supposed to have a fight, actually. I don't know what's going on with Mickey Bay right now, but Mickey Bay was one of his trainers, as well as Floyd Mayweather Sr. and several other people. So Devin Haney has everything that he needs to he's up that age now where that's why they agreed to cross the seas to Australia. I'm sure his father knew that, you know, he may have issues with getting a visa to go across there. So I mean, it was put into place a while ago. It's nothing really new. It was a shocker to me at first, but so like I said before, I've already predicted Devin Haney versus George Kambosos. He's going to take the strap. He's going to be the first four belt lightweight world champion. You know, it's going to happen. Some people have reservations because he's in Australia. They remember the Jeff Horn fight, blah, 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 blah. But it's going to be very hard to take a fight from a guy who dominated from round 1 to round 12, and all you saw was him dominating. Like, there's no question. Like, he won every single round. It's really very hard. It's like Bivol versus Canelo. It's hard to take that fight from them. It's just very hard. So no matter what anyone says, you know, Devin Haney is built for this occasion. He's built for this moment. So I've never really had to think too much about it. I know what kind of fighter Devin Haney is. I know what pedigree he comes from. I mean, George Kambosos is a hell of a tenacious fighter. He has a lot of really great attributes and everything. It's just that he's not on Devin Haney level. And Devin Haney showed a separation on what level he was on. To me, he confirmed that in his fight against Jojo Diaz. Jojo Diaz, hell of a fighter. And Devin Haney made Jojo Diaz, I mean, he was walking Jojo Diaz down. He was beating him up in the later rounds. So, I mean, Devin Haney is another one of those special fighters that you just have to look out for these guys, you know. I'm looking to see what happens with Jaleel Hackett. He's another one you got to watch out for. He's hungry. He's a welterweight, though. But he's another one you got to watch out for him. He's special, you know. There's a couple other guys out there, you know, the Antoine Russells and, you know, you know, don't forget Reggie Sprague right now. You know, there's some special guys out there. They're just special, you know, special guys, and you have to be able to acknowledge that in boxing. So anyway, that's all I got for now. What you need out. It was nice talking with you guys, and I'm gonna catch you guys later. Peace.